Okay.
Hey,
And
Mice.
Athena? Yes, Athena. On the
Yes,
on
yes.
the next hour, I need to go to something else, but this exact thing is being repeated at 6 o'clock.
Well, it's not going to be
What?
exact because it's live. It's the same world,
Yeah.
and Alex is going to be talking and going through the same things, but
Okay.
people might ask different questions, might lead us in a different route, might say
Right.
different
Okay.
words, right?
Well, I'll
So
see
it's
the
same, but
beginning. So
different.
maybe I'll just come again for the whole thing next time. We'll see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, come
So we're
try
not
us.
watching a screening.
No. Well,
Okay, that's what I
yeah.
wasn't sure.
Yeah, you
So
said
there's
it's a
videos with a
climb,
live
right?
narration. Yeah, we're doing a climb. We're going to climb Mount Everest
Cool.
together.
Oh, okay.
It's very exciting.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm
Okay.
not sure if I wore the right shoes.
Oh, it's okay. You can do it in heels.
Oh, no.
We're all good. All good. Yeah, I got my flip flops on. We'll be great. Okay, whenever you're ready, Doug.
I know. He's got all the things going. How many computers are you running today? Holy cow. All on one. I am here. We are here. We are here. Like the Who in Whoville. I'm live. Oh my goodness. Look at this room. Hello, everyone. Welcome to BurnerSphere. Come on in, find your people, and make yourself at home. We have got something truly special for you today, and I could not be more excited that you are here for it. We're about to welcome Alex Harz, the filmmaker and adventurer behind the Quest Everest. But before we do, let's make sure everyone is set up and ready to roll. If this is your first time inside BurnerSphere, raise your hand or just wave your whole avatar. And we love the enthusiasm because you're going to want to send a few friend requests out right now to the people around you. It's the easiest way to find your way back to us if you ever get bounced out of this space. And while you're at it, pop into your settings and hit audio. Now, the settings is the purple bead on your bracelet or the gear icon in the upper right. Open that up, look at your audio. You want to bring your ambient down a little bit, possibly, and the chat volume up. But this is how you can adjust as we go through the experience to make sure that you're hearing everything the best way you can. So a heads up for the whole room, we are live streaming on YouTube and Discord right now. So our community is even bigger than what you see around you. A huge thank you to Doug for making this happen. If you spot him wandering around the world, those are his streaming eyes taking everyone along for the ride. So hello to everyone on YouTube and hi to our family on Discord. We're so glad you're able to join us. And next time, come into BurnerSphere. It's so nice in here. The weather's always perfect. So this is what we're getting ready to do. We're going to go over to the world selector and we're going to go to the Quest Everest world. It is under special projects. Or you can go to the billboard and just click the go to button on the billboard for the event. Once we are all inside, I will introduce Alex.
Where's everyone else? Oh, there they here they come.
Yeah, they gotta find it on the menu.
All
Woo,
stuff.
it is cold in here.
You know, it's not as cold as I thought it would be.
Oh, did they all materialize over there? Oh yeah, they're materializing over there.
Oh, interesting. So you have two spawn
Because
points.
they went to the selector and I clicked on the billboard. Does that make a difference?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I clicked on the billboard.
Interesting.
That's interesting. Good to
Yeah.
know.
So we spawned in different places.
Okay. Where should we He's right over here.
By part one, first part
Okay,
of
let's do it.
the footage. I think we could probably climb the mountain and maybe look at the trailer later. I
Okay.
think maybe we can
I
jump in and look at the footage. So my thought here, Athena, and I don't know if this is kind of best for the
yeah.
environment of the group, but my initial thought is that we jump into the bubble here, part one. We'll go through
Okay.
some of the clips, which are from the actual The Quest Everest VR documentary, which are
Okay.
broken up into these 5 parts. We'll go to this one, watch the clips. I'll talk a little bit about what's going on that you're seeing. And
Okay.
then we come back outside the bubble. And if anyone has questions relating to those clips, we'll have a little bit of Q&A before we go on to part 2, part 3, part 4, and part 5.
I love that. I have a quick intro, introducing you, and then we'll proceed, and then I'll give you the floor, and then it'll all be you.
Appreciate that.
Okay, great. Oh, I need to turn this way, and then I need to turn this way. There we go. Is that a good background? You like that, Doug? So first, I'm going to ask everyone if you yourself until you're ready to talk, and that way we don't get any background noise. So if everybody can please mute themselves, and I can say, all right, friends, strap in because we're about to leave the playa and head somewhere even more extreme. Do you feel the cold? Our guest today has stood on top of the world, literally. Alex Harz is an adventurer, filmmaker, and creator and host of the Quest series, a groundbreaking 2D virtual reality documentary series that takes global audiences on epic educational journeys to some of the most fascinating and rarely seen places on Earth. He is a Mount Everest summiter, a member of the prestigious Explorers Club, and brings a remarkable combination of production, directing, acting, and international business experience to every project he touches. He is also, perhaps unexpectedly, the founder of the Win Improv Comedy Radio Show, which is tells you this is a man who knows how to hold a room at any altitude. Today, Alex is bringing his immersive documentary, The Quest Everest, into BurnerSphere, where Doug has built us our very own version of the mountain to explore together as avatars. You'll experience breathtaking 360 footage from Alex's real climb and hear stories behind the exhibition firsthand and have the chance to ask your questions live. This is more than a screening. This is a shared climb. So please give a warm BurnerSphere welcome to Alex Harz.
Yeah, I hear him.
Thank you so much, Athena. I
And
greatly
please
appreciate
mute
that.
yourself. Make sure you're all muted so we don't get any background
The
noise.
mute is on your wrist. If you
There
look
we go.
on your left wrist, there's a mic.
He got it.
Or the X button. Yeah.
Or the X button. That's right. The X button does it too, unless you're on a computer. Okay, Alex, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you so much, Athena. Thanks for that kind intro, and thanks for the kind words, of course. Needless to say, it's pretty cool and amazing to be able to hang out with you guys here today on this virtual world that Doug and the BurnerSphere were able to create around Mount Everest. So this is something really cool, really unique. And essentially what we're going to do here, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, is I want to take you on 5 little parts of the journey that are footage or clips and scenes from the Quest Everest VR virtual reality documentary. And what we're going to do is we're going to jump into each one of these bubbles and we're going to collectively watch the various scenes that unfold in front of us. And I'll give you some information. We'll talk about it a little bit. And then when we're done with the scenes within that various part, we come back out of the bubble and then maybe we should gather right by the sign again. And if you guys have any questions regarding what you just saw, I'll be more than happy to answer any of those questions. Then we go on to part 2, part 3, part 4, and part 5, and talk about the various scenes and the quest that we took over the course of 52 days to get to the summit of Mount Everest and back. So if that sounds good to you guys, again, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us. Let's jump into the first part right here, which is Trek to Everest Base Camp, part 1, and let's watch some clips. All right, everyone. As you can see, we're walking here in a village, and this is the Himalayan village of Luka. It sits at about 9,800 feet or 2,900 meters above sea level in the renowned Khumbu Valley, Nepal. And there are no roads that lead to Lukla, but it is also the starting point for most expeditions in Nepal. And in order to reach this village, you usually typically fly into the deadliest airport in the world, known as Lukla's Tenzing Hillary Airport. As you can see on the side of the trail, there's some earthquake damage because Nepal sits on the boundary of two tectonic plates that slam into each other, which formed the Himalayan mountains. And Lukla, as well as the villages along the way, are predominantly inhabited by the ethnic Sherpa people, which migrated from Tibet to the valley about 650 years ago. Here you can see a herd of Zoe, and Zoe is a crossbreed of a cow and yak. And so in order to get everything to Everest Base Camp, it has to go up either on the back of a human, the back of an animal, or flown in by helicopter. So the donkeys and mules are typically used at lower altitudes. The Zoes are very strong at these mid-level altitudes in the Khumbu Valley, and the yaks are most utilized at the extreme high altitudes closer to base camp. Trekkers and climbers, as you can see here, that are coming along the trail are typically given warnings to make way to the yaks and the Zoes because you can see their horns. They can easily gore you, so you kind of got to give them right away. And what's pretty cool, if you see this herder right here, he is controlling these animals strictly by his voice commands and a tiny little stick. So very impressive, and they just kind of know where to go all the way up to Everest Base Camp. Here we are on the highest bridge in the Khumbu Valley, the Edmund Hillary Suspension Bridge, and it crosses the Kosi River below. The Kosi River is fed by the Khumbu Glacier in the flanks of Mount Everest upstream, and this bridge is about 500 feet or 150 meters long and is about 400 feet above the Kosi River. This bridge, as you can see, is also adorned by Buddhist prayer flags, which are put up on high points within the Khumbu Valley that have mantras on these flags in order to spread the blessings and the wind to the people below. Here you can see us on our journey into Dingboche. Dingboche is part of the trek to Everest Base Camp, and over the course of 9 days that we trek to Everest Base Camp, we go to these different villages and we go to do acclimatization hikes above those villages to then sleep back down in those villages later on that day in order to give our body a chance to acclimatize to the increasing altitude. We produce more red blood cells. This allows us to survive at those altitudes. Here we are at about 14,470 feet or 4,410 meters above sea level. And in the distance, behind the village there, peeking through the clouds, you can see iconic Mount Ahmad Blam, which many say is the most beautiful mountain in the world. Here we are hiking over Loboshe Pass towards the last village before Mount Everest Base Camp, which is named Gorik Shep. Gorik Shep is the highest village in the world, and it's just under 17,000 feet or 5,165 meters. And this thing that we're hiking on, this trail, is called a moraine, and it's created by the Khumbu Glacier below, pushing up these rocks and sediment. And what's very interesting about it is it's been pushed up farther and farther as the years have gone on over the millennia. In the distance, you can see Everest Base Camp at the dead end of the Khumbu Glacier here, and that's the international border between China and Nepal. So let's step back out, and if you have any questions, shoot away.
That's so cool.
That was cool.
Very cool.
That is so cool. That is so cool.
How do we step out?
Just walk
Either walk
through it.
out.
Just walk out of it. Walk right through the wall.
Okay, got it.
So what,
I was
what
like, because I
360
was like, I
camera are
can't
you
see it.
using
How can I
to record this with?
I know, it's so disorienting.
Yeah, we used a GoPro Fusion camera actually here that then was modified, and the reason why that was the case was because we needed a camera that can be very durable, that can take the beating of not only the altitude but also the extreme weather conditions, and also can be mounted onto our pack. Because as you can see, you're actually over the right shoulder of me, climbing with me in first person on the way to Everest. So that was the camera that we used.
So that
Can go ahead.
sorry, I was going to say that we can't see you in the shot then because you're the one that's carrying the camera.
I saw a
Yeah.
little bit of his head.
Yeah, you can look down
Correct.
and see him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct. You can
Right.
see my ugly head and you can possibly see my feet
Image.
below, but it was kind of designed that way because the thought behind it was I was a big video game fan growing up, and I always liked those first person or third person over the shoulder kind of video games and shooters. And I thought, well, if I'm going to go to Mount Everest and risk my life to do this expedition and tell these stories, why don't we do something that could be possibly the most immersive way to capture that? And that is to take people with me on a first person perspective versus just watching on a screen in front of you. So that's where the idea came from, to put it over my shoulder, like, again, like that third person over the shoulder video game view or first person zoomed out view. And so therefore you can kind of walk with me along the way.
Athena,
Can
go
we
ahead.
walk on the map and you can show us like where we were during that segment?
Yeah, sure. We can walk over the map here, guys, if you want. So what we're doing here is we're heading up right here. Does you see this little river where I'm standing at? That is the Dukosi River that we walked over the bridge of in 2 clips ago. And this is the valley that we go up, the Khumbu Valley here. And then we head all the way up here, and this is the Khumbu Glacier, where you saw in that last clip, that moraine I told you about, which are the rock and snow being pushed up. That's actually on the side of this glacier, on the left side of this glacier. And that is leading us down here into Everest Base Camp. So that distance from Lukla, where we started, to Everest Base Camp is approximately 40 miles. And we did that over the course of 9 days.
Wow.
How long was
Yeah.
how long was the entire trek from beginning to end?
Well, the whole climb and trek itself. So the trek was 9 days, and then the climb from Everest Base Camp to the summit of Everest took 43 days. So the total time was 52 days.
And how much money does that cost?
It very much depends on a couple of factors. A, who do you go with? What operator, what outfit, what expedition leader? They will provide a different degree of, let's say, amenities, also, support staff and supplies. So that will have a big indication on how much it costs. The other thing that, in this case, we were filming also. So we were shooting a 2D documentary, actually 2D documentaries. So we had 7 cameras that were in the 2D documentary space with us and crew, and then also the VR camera. So that's a little bit different. Most people that go and do an expedition like this aren't bringing a whole crew along and aren't bringing 8 cameras with them in order to do some documentaries. So that, of course, heightened the cost. But the cheapest you could do it nowadays is somewhere between $45,000 all the way up to $200,000.
Wow. I guess batteries are a big issue up there in the cold because their lithium polys do not like cold weather.
That is 100% correct, and that is one of the main things that limit or have kind of a wrench get thrown into the works on what you end up capturing and bringing back, because we had to not only calculate as we're moving up down the mountain how many batteries we're going to take, knowing that the life of those batteries might be as little as 25% of the max capacity because of the cold weather. But then how are we going to actually charge those batteries? So you don't have a power source to plug stuff into, so everything had to be solar powered. So we had to calculate where we were going to charge, how much we're going to charge. And then on the same token, at the end of filming sessions, we had to try to offload that footage in order to preserve that footage onto computers, which had to be dumped back down in base camp on hard drives, which again are also working off solar power.
To protect
Oh, that is
the footage.
crazy. So you have to carry all that gear.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, that made it it made it a little bit more complicated than just the complexity of climbing the mountain itself. The nice thing about it, I guess, the positive thing to the whole, difficulty of climbing the mountain and filming at the same time, was that it kind of made me a war reporter kind of mentality. I was kind of outside of myself sometimes, not really focused on the dangers in front of me and some of the things that were happening around me directly as a climber, because I'm worried about trying to capture the story that we're trying to shoot at a very low at a given location. So that kind of gave me a false sense of security sometimes about how dangerous it was, what may or may not have been going on around me that might have instilled some fear or anxiety in you, because I was so captivated on trying to get the job done at hand. That also, on the flip side of that, of course, that could have got me killed a little bit easier, because again, I'm so focused on trying to capture footage that I might not have been worried so much about my own safety.
No pun intended.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by Everest and all the people that have gone there and a lot that have not come back. And of course, I watch a lot of YouTube videos, and many of the videos are influencers that try to do Instagram and stuff like that, and then end up dying up there because they get so distracted by trying to please their followers that they forget about the danger of the mountain and what it can do to your health and basically kill you.
100% right. That is totally true. You know, for me and everybody that climbs Mount Everest does not come back unscathed one way or another. So in my case, I lost 27 pounds of pure muscle mass. I was in the best shape of my life when I went to Nepal. I was running almost 2 marathons. Actually, I was running 2 marathons a week. You know, I was training 7 days a week, 2 to 3 hours a day. I took no day off in a calendar year. And again, I was in the best shape of my life, but the mountain is so rough on you that I lost 27 pounds of muscle, not fat. And that's hard to get back. I also have permanent nerve damage in all 10 of my toes, but that's 3 feet from my heart, so I'll live. And I don't play soccer that much anymore, so I don't really need that tactile response. So that's all good. But yeah, Everest is a brutal place, and it's not easy on the body. So, you know, you'll definitely come back physically changed as well as mentally and spiritually
Modified.
changed. Yeah,
Yeah.
modified.
Yeah.
Should we go to the next bubble?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go to part 2. Follow me.
Base camp.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So if Alex goes in first, then we'll follow him. Oh, you
Or Doug.
went- Doug.
Everybody
Okay,
in.
here we come.
All righty. Okay, we still jumped ahead here, looks like. We missed a couple scenes. I don't know if we want to jump back out. Doug, can you reset it
Huh.
manually or?
Are we leaving or not?
Yeah, let's jump out for 1 second.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, Doug, you
Alex?
tell me when to go in and I'll jump in and everyone. Okay, I'll be right back or I'll call you guys in. Yeah, we're still a couple clips ahead.
Alex, how old were you when you did this?
44 years old.
Wow.
Wow.
And you live in Colorado? Where you?
I do.
Yeah,
I do.
So, yeah, you're used to mountains then.
Somewhat. Yeah.
Well, but I grew up in the flatlands of Europe and in the Midwest, you know, in Nebraska, so that couldn't be farther from the mountains. So,
Yeah, no
it's
kidding.
so it was definitely something that had to be, you know, built up to. It took 9 years of preparation and training to get to Mount
Does
Everest.
the
Wow.
when I
video
started
only
that.
play
Do
when
we-
someone's
do
in the
we-
bubble?
Are you done?
It only
you're not
plays when
going back,
somebody's
are
in
you?
the bubble. Yes. It's
So I
network
think someone
thing.
needs to like reset it.
Um,
You know,
we just need to wait for it.
just wait.
Okay. Yeah, it's still on the third scene in here, Doug. So I don't know if there's a way to reset that or. Okay,
Okay.
jump on in.
Oh, nice.
Okay, here we go. So we just entered Everest Base Camp here, and this is Lower Everest Base Camp. We're at about 17,500 feet or 5,335 meters above sea level. And as you can see here, there's a herd of yaks leaving base camp after delivering supplies to expedition teams. And these yaks, of course, are the strongest animals at these high altitudes. But because of the elevation here, we only take in about 50% amount of the oxygen that we would normally down at sea level. The yaks have adjusted to that over centuries and centuries of living high altitudes, so they're great workers at these altitudes.
And they're cute.
They're cute.
I'm
Here we
seeing the
are.
yaks. I'm still in the other scene, but oh well, it's all right. It's okay. I'll just tag along, and I'm loving it anyway.
All
Drinking
right.
Coca-Cola up there.
Yeah, we're in Coca-Cola here. We finally reached our Everest base camp 9 days after starting our trek from Luca, and here's the rest of our team here to greet us. And many of the teams on Everest are made up of cooks and porters and medical extras and climbing crew members, all of which are invaluable to the success on Everest. As you can see with all the tents around here, Everest is actually a 1 mile long international tent city, and it takes weeks and weeks to set up ahead of the climbing season, and then is broken back down after the 2 month season is over. So it is an arduous process to set this base camp up, especially on the fact that we're on a moving glacier. So, it's constantly moving around. Here you can see a helicopter coming in, and one of the things is it doesn't matter how well trained you are or how mentally tough you are. One of the main factors that you can't change on determining your success on Everest is your genetics. You're either born with the ability to survive at extreme altitude or you're not. And if you're not able to acclimatize during an Everest expedition, sometimes helicopter evacuations to lower elevations is your only option. Here you can see a helicopter. It flies in near our camp to come and evacuate one of our production crew members, actually, who was suffering from acute mountain sickness. He was trying to acclimatize at base camp, but he kept getting worse and worse, so a helicopter was ultimately sent to pick him up. Our team, as you see here coming to greet the helicopter, actually carved out this landing spot within the rock and the ice of that Khumbu Glacier that I was telling you that's moving, so the helicopter can find a way to land and take off. So quite impressive. And since the helicopter was sent for the evacuation, it had also dropped off some much needed supplies along the way. No reason to waste, this dangerous, treacherous trip to get to base camp and not be efficient about it. Needless to say, these helicopter pilots on Everest and the crews who support them are truly amazing. But you can see our cameraman, Alex, he's the one here with the beanie flapping around and the orange strap. He's the one that ends up jumping into the helicopter, and he goes back down to lower altitude. They flew him all the way back to Kathmandu, and he got treated for some acute mountain sickness, and he is totally fine now. But again, like we were mentioning earlier, Athena, there's a genetic component to this, and it's the great equalizer that nobody knows until you go. You can't train for it. You just have to go and see how your body responds, and hopefully you're able to acclimatize to that altitude as you're going up the mountain. And that's also why we take 9 days to get here. We have to take it slow and easy, acclimatize, and produce more red blood cells, and let our bodies adjust. And hopefully we're able to then, acclimatize to the new altitude that we reach to as we're going our way up the mountain. There goes the helicopter, heading back down the Khumbu Valley, and we'll probably come back soon. Here we
It's a
are at our
very-
base camp.
Very
Yep,
colorful helicopter.
It's a very colorful helicopter, and here's our base
With a
camp. We
dragon
spent
on it.
several. It has a dragon on it. Yep, it's a famous one. We spend several days and nights here over the course of the 1.5 month that this is our home away from home, and we do that in order to get acclimatized, like I mentioned, to the altitude, but also to kind of get engaged into the seriousness of Everest and the difficulty of our climb ahead. Also during this time here at base camp, before we start climbing, we have to do a mandatory puja ceremony, which is a religious Buddhist ceremony designed to ask for protection and permission from the goddess mother of the world, Chomolungma, as the Sherpa people call her. So it's a very, 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 very spiritual pace for the Sherpa, and nobody's allowed to climb the mountain until we perform that puja ceremony. So that takes place a couple days into our stay at base camp. Let's jump back out and meet by the bubble sign.
Do you have that recording also of the prayer that was done?
I do, and that was a 3-hour ceremony. We see it more in the 2D documentary. You can see it in the full The Quest Everest VR documentary, which you can check the signpost out on the other side of camp here. You can see the trailer for it. But in the 2D documentary, we talk about it a little bit more. And that process was 3 hours. So yeah, it's a lot of prayers that are being issued to Chomolungma and asking for guidance and permission. And we also give a lot of offerings. So that Coca-Cola bottle that you saw me drinking that was given to me by one of the cooks, we were actually giving Coca-Cola and food and snacks at that stupa that you saw there at base camp, which are the rock formations and shrines. We were giving that
But
as
they're
offerings to
blessed.
the. Yep,
Yeah.
that's right. We were giving those as offerings to Chomolungma. So it's a lengthy process. It's a very spiritual process, and it's an absolutely mandatory process.
Yeah.
It's wonderful to be here with you narrating this yourself. But you're obviously not going to be here every day. So are you going to be putting in narrations to these dome movies or things outside that explain what's happening the way
That's a
you've
good
been telling
idea.
us?
That's a that,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. Yeah.
This is cool.
Yeah. We're very lucky.
If you're recording this, you could take his audio and put it into the video, have it overlap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but we're also
Yeah.
Sure.
talking though, or even just a little billboard outside each one that mentions a
Yeah.
few of the pertinent things, like the person, with the mountain sickness, and yeah, yeah, it's wonderful.
all right. So let's go ahead on
Part three?
to part 3 right down here, and let me jump in the bubble first, or Doug and I
Hold on.
jump
Don't
in
go in
together,
yet. Don't go in yet. Hold on.
and then we
Here we go.
can.
Patience,
All right.
patience.
Patience. When
Don't
everybody
break the
gathers up
circle.
around me, when you guys are all ready, I'll wait for you. I'll turn around and take a peek at you and make sure we're all nearby. All right. Well, 1, 2, 3. Let's jump on in. All right. So after leaving base camp, here we are in the infamous Khumbu Icefall, heading towards Camp 1. You can see base camp in the distance, and at the dead end of the Khumbu Valley that separates Nepal from China to our right side as well. But what's
Oh my
fascinating
God.
about what's fascinating about this place
Wow.
is that there is
Oh my
nowhere in the
gosh.
world that we would climb a huge maze of collapsing ice towers the size of cars and buildings to reach a summit, except on Mount Everest. And it's only because you have to go through here if you want to get to the top of the highest mountain on the world. And that's the reason why we do it, and the only reason why we do it. This jumbo sheet of ice is flowing, downhill, and it's filled with crevasses, and it moves up to 6 feet or 2 meters per day, and is considered by many the deadliest 2.5 miles on Earth. And the thing about climbing in the Khumbu Icefall, it's a very delicate balance between safety and moving as fast as possible. It is a constant evolving gamble to figure out the best way to avoid random collapsing blocks of ice, as well as avalanches going off around us, while also trying to navigate shifting crevasses. It's kind of like the climbing equivalent of playing Russian roulette. And of over the
Oh God.
and of over the 340 people that have died on
Mm-hmm.
Everest, unfortunately, many have perished in this icefall. So it's a very eerie place to be. You can actually hear the blocks of ice moving above you, which kind of puts a little bit of fear in you. And you just feel the whole time you're here that I don't belong here, yet you're kind of fascinated like a moth in a light bulb. You want to be there. So it's a really strange dichotomy, but an unbelievable and surreal place to be, that's for sure.
You are one adrenaline junkie, Alex. Dude,
Did
man.
you see an avalanche while you were doing this?
Yes, plenty of them. Saw
Oh
them every single
God.
day that we were there. Every single day, without exception.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I actually
Woo!
filmed one, and you can see it in the 2D documentary, and it hits us. All right, so
What?
here
It
we
hits
are.
you?
Yeah, it hits us, but we were unscathed.
Oh my God.
And if you want to make it to the top of the world, we have to go up and down this Khumbu Icefall multiple times, not only to acclimatize our bodies to the increasing altitude that we talked about earlier, but also to carry equipment to the 4 camps that lie above us. And here I am following our expedition leader, Ryan Waters, through a narrow crevasse split in the ice. And since the ice fall is ever changing in a flowing maze of snow and ice that is prone to avalanche and serac collapses, the route is constantly being adjusted, and we never went through the exact same way twice. In addition to that part of it, there are also other teams in the icefall, so you have to be able to navigate safely around these other teams while you're going through the icefall. And as you can see right here, there's a team coming down while we were heading up.
I heard there's traffic jams up there, just like the 405.
You know, that really depends on the day, it depends on the year, and depends on where you are. In our case, we didn't have any of that. So yeah, a lot of that has to do with other factors that we can talk about later. I'll be more than happy to give you kind of the lay of the land of how that works versus maybe what you see on social media.
Alex,
Mm.
are you going back, Alex?
No, not anytime soon. I will eventually go
done?
back, but maybe not to climb the mountain again. Maybe for other reasons. Yeah, it was without a doubt, the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, and needless to say, not the easiest. And as you can see in this
Oh
shot,
God.
here we are faced with a deadly ladder crossing over a deep crevasse, and it takes quite a bit of focus, balance, and it's not really for the faint of heart. We can only have about 1 inch of traction on the front of our boots and 1 inch of traction on the back of our boots, as you can see if you look down at my feet, because there's these things called crampons or spikes that are attached to the bottom of our boots, and these are necessary for traveling on the hard snow and ice of the mountain. So when we're crossing these ladders, we only have 1 inch of purchase on the front and the back of our boots, so you're just tiptoeing on them. So it's a little bit dicey, to say the least. Here we
I'm
are.
not seeing the video advancing, and and that happened to me in the last one too. I'm like stuck on the same scene, but it might just be my system or something. Still, it's amazing. But yeah, I'm sorry, I don't want to slow us down.
Karen, go out and come back in.
Alex, I guess they don't have a Home Depot there for aluminum ladders, do they?
No, they do not, and you have to stack them, time to get them with fishing twine, and then you kind of try to guesstimate the span of how wide the crevasse is and going to be, because it's constantly shifting at 2 to 6 feet a day. Here I'm climbing this big crevasse wall just after we got done crossing that ladder crossing, and we're at about 20,000 feet or 6,100 meters here in the western Khumbu Valley. Needless to say, this is not easy, and you can see my teammate next to me, that's Golner Tumbat from Turkey, climbing this crevasse wall with me. It took quite a bit of strength, balance, and stamina to climb up this wall, and what made it even more difficult is that the weather here in the western Khumbu is crazy. It's very sporadic, it's very neurotic, because the western Khumbu is kind of like a freeze and fry scenario. It can reach over 100 degrees in Fahrenheit of heat index due to the high altitude solar radiation effect of the sun bouncing off the snow and the mountains around us. But yet Everest is so massive that it creates its own weather, so it can also drop 80 degrees in temperature in a matter of minutes when the wind and clouds roll in. Here you can also see our team above us, and you'll notice here in a second, they're going to start hoisting up some backpacks up the wall from above us in order to shuttle gear. But again, this was a slog. This was quite difficult, going at this altitude, about 60 vertical feet up this snow and ice wall, by just grabbing your rope and climbing up it by kicking your feet into the wall with those crampons, those spikes that I was talking about in the last scene. Without those, you're not getting up here, and you're climbing pretty much the whole mountain with those crampons on. So you have kind of that double-edged sword. You need those to climb terrain like this, but on the same token, when you're climbing on rock or those aluminum ladders, going over those crevasses, it makes it very challenging because there's not much balance and not much purchase while you're doing so.
You need retractable clamps or something, spikes.
That would be a great invention. And, I think that would be very well received. The only problem with it from a production side, you wouldn't sell all that many because you're not using those crampons in too many hiking situations comparatively. But here's this backpack that you've seen that's getting pulled up, and that's being pulled up by one of our teammates because we are carrying additional supplies up to the camps above us as we're moving up and down the mountain. So we're constantly shuttling supplies as we're working our way up from base camp up to the 4 different camps that stand above us along the way. And here I am cresting that 60-foot wall of snow and ice.
I'm
How much
so
do these
grateful to
backpacks weigh?
see this.
It depends. They can weigh quite a bit and they can be very little. It depends on what rotation you're on and where you are on the mountain. So it really depends. And in my case, I was also, carrying camera gear. All right, here we are at Camp 1. We're approaching Camp 1, and we've successfully weaved through the Khumbu Icefall and entered that western Khumbu Valley that I was talking about. And we're at about 19,700 feet or 6,005 meters up in the western Khumbu. We'll spend several days here at Camp 1 during our 2 acclimatization climbing rotations up the mountain to adjust our body. And as you can see here, the western Khumbu is actually surrounded in a bowl-like shape, and it is surrounded by the towering trio of Mount Everest to the distance there and the left, and you can see the altitude coming up, and Mount Lhotse, which is straight ahead of us, and that happens to be the 4th highest mountain in the world. And to our right, you can see Mount Nuptse. And those 3 make the Everest Massive, or the bowl that is around Mount Everest. We are going to be here, like I said, for several days as we work our way up. And with 9,300 feet, or about 2,835 meters of elevation still to go to reach the summit, you can imagine the enormous challenge of the quest still ahead of us as we try to get to Camp 2, Camp 3, Camp 4, and to the summit up on Everest to the left up there. So
What do
we're
you
only
do
getting
on the
started.
what do you do on the days that you're rest in camp? Like besides sleeping and eating, do you tell stories to each other or
Doom scroll.
Yes, we do. And let's jump back out the bubble. Yeah, a lot of it is trying to get your body to really deal with some of the suffering that you're feeling. What happens as you're going up higher and higher, even though your body's trying to that you're dealing with, so that will affect your lungs. It makes it very irritating to the point where it can actually cut your inside your lungs, like sniffing in fiberglass. And so
Oh
a
God.
lot of people get this thing, and I got it myself. It's called the Khumbu cough, and the Khumbu cough is this incessant, non-stop cough that you have. It's because you're actually bleeding inside your alveolar
oh
sacs
my
and your
God.
lungs. You're irritating them from the dry air, and you're huffing and puffing, breathing so heavy that you're expelling all the moisture out of your lungs and sucking in all the dry air into your lungs at a very fast rate, and that causes your lungs to dry out. So when you're resting in these tents, you're trying to help that Khumbu cough scenario, taking a lot of fluids. You're drinking between 3 to 8 liters of fluid a day to get hydrated and to try to keep your body from drying out. And you're just resting. You're just trying to recover, almost like laying in a hospital bed to get ready for the next portion of the climb.
Wow. So are
8
you
liters
melting
a
the
day.
snow, I guess, to drink
What's that? Yes, you
to
melt
get the
snow.
water you're
Yep, it's the only way to get water.
But I bet it's good water.
Yes, correct. So we are gonna. Yep, that's right. So we're now going to
Doug, you
be
got to
heading.
billboard these labels.
Yeah,
You know
we
what I
can
mean?
do that.
Yeah,
And
that's
we
great.
we have a little bit of a sign. If you look at the billboard, you can see what we're doing here within those bubbles. So here we're climbing to Camp 1 and Camp 2 in this Part 3 segment, right? The next segment, we're actually trying to make our way up to Camp 4, which is where we'll be heading to next. So let's.
Everybody gather around and once Alex calls it, then we'll all go in together.
And for those who have a lagging issue, for example, with the video, after we're all said and done, and we're on our own accord, you can always come back here and you can watch those clips again without me having to talk about it, and take your leisurely time to look at these clips, as well as climb on the mountain, as well as watching the Everest VR trailer on the other side of the world over there. So let's jump on in. All right, here we are climbing this thing called the steep Lhotse Face, and the Lhotse Face separates Camp 2 to Camp 4, and it's about 5,000 feet tall, or 1,525 meters. And again, the objection here is to try to get to the top of this Lhotse face. In this case, we're trying to reach Camp 3 at about 23,600 feet, or 7,193 meters on the face, before we move our way up to Camp 4. This face is extremely steep. If you fall here, you're going to slip and slide your death. And unfortunately, that happened just 2 days ago on Everest this year. Someone fell down this Lhotse face and died. So yeah, this is a bad place to stumble on your feet or to be unclipped from the rope. We spent one night at Camp 3. You can see it behind me. If you look behind my backpack, you can see Camp 3, and that's carved out into the ice at 26,700 feet. And we spend one night there before we keep working our way up the steep face towards Camp 4. Now we are at the top of the Lhotse face, and now we have another steep section to climb called the Geneva Spur. And the Geneva Spur is at about 26,000 feet or 8,000 meters. As you can see here, I'm cresting the Geneva Spur, and as I'm cresting the Geneva Spur, we can see the majestic triangular face of Everest straight ahead of me for the first time. But this also leads us directly into the death zone at 26,000 feet or 8,000 meters above sea level. So it's beautiful as can be, but it's not a place that our body wants to be. And it's called the death zone for good reason, because again, at those altitudes, at 8,000 meters and above, we will ultimately die. We are slowly dying, and we will die if we stay here too long, because every breath that we take here is only about 1/3 the amount of oxygen that we would get down at sea level. So we're on borrowed time here, and the objective is to get up and out of the death zone as fast as possible before we are no longer to make it down successfully. After a
Can you
tough day
have
of
things
climbing,
like infusions of iron or something to help
no, you
the
don't.
blood?
Yeah, you can take supplements, but you don't have any of that kind of stuff. What you do is you just kind of have to acclimatize. You're on bottled oxygen at this point, and hopefully that makes enough of the difference for you to survive and for you to adjust to continue higher on the mountain. And here you can see us walking into Camp 4, which is the last staging point that we're going to then go for the summit later on that night. And this is kind of a wind-battered landscape that looks more like you'd see something on the moon than you would on planet Earth. And it's a very neat but very deadly and airy place. The wind speeds here can exceed over 100 miles or 160 kilometers an hour. So it's a very, very harsh place to be. But as you can see in this time lapse, this is the most beautiful stars or sighting of stars and the moon I've ever seen in my life. But again, under a very treacherous environment. So it looks amazingly stunning, very beautiful, but it's a very, very dangerous place to be. And it's not a place that you want to be outside your tent too long. But here we are trying to get a little bit of rest, a little bit of food, a little bit of water before we head up that triangular face later that night. And we left at about midnight, several hours behind the two other teams that were up here with us, so we wouldn't get jammed up with them if there were any kind of situations or incidents that might have arisen later up onto the climb. So we left here at midnight, and that is us
What
at
were
Camp
those
4.
lines of lights?
So that is the time lapse. Let's jump back outside the bubble. So what you can see is that's the time lapse of lamps from the headlamps of climbers, as well as shooting stars streaking across the sky.
Do you see any
You have
UFOs?
jetliners flying over you guys too, I imagine.
Correct. And you'll kind of get a good sense of it when we jump into that next bubble. We're up at those altitudes, and you can actually see, where the jetliners are flying and cruising at. So, yeah, if you don't have any questions, we can jump into this next bubble as we gather around here, and you get to see, ultimately, that as we're heading to the top of the world above Camp 4. So yeah, as I said, we left at midnight. The calculation is that you try to get up to the summit during the daylight and back down to Camp 4 before it gets dark again. You don't want to get stuck out on the southeast ridge or the higher flanks of Everest in the middle of the dark. That's a very dangerous situation, and of course, very time dependent on your oxygen levels and how fast you're able to go in order to make it up there and back down. We have very set time standards that you try to reach as you're going up, and you'll see those as we jump into the bubble. So let's jump in here for the last bubble on our top of the world. Okay, so after climbing all day and all night, or all night, I should say, after midnight, to try to get up the mountain, that steep triangular face that you saw from Camp 4, we took a small break to get some water and to get a little bit of just rest in us at 27,660 feet or 8,430 meters at the iconic balcony, which is right behind me there. And as you can see there, we are now on the international border between China and Nepal. If we're actually climbing on that border, and down my left side, over my left shoulder, you can actually see Nepal, and down the right side of me is China, and the massive Kangshim face dropping off into the Tibetan Plateau. Behind us, we see our team again at the balcony. They are getting ready to come up and follow me up this ridge. And you can also see the fourth and fifth highest mountain in the world behind us, Mount Makalu and Mount Lhotse. And Mount Lhotse is that face that we climbed a day earlier. And you can just see in the distance there, Camp 4, we were during that nighttime time lapse down there below Lhotse. So that's where we came up from when we left at the middle of the night and came up to this triangular face to connect with this southeast ridge, which is now going to lead us all the way up to the summit. So if you don't feel strong and you're not making it to that balcony area where that team is sitting behind me, the rest of the team, is the first kind of point where you're going to have to say, okay, I don't think I can make it to the summit under the time checkpoint you're trying to achieve. You're going to have to turn around and go back down to Camp 4. Or if you think you can, or your oxygen is doing okay, then you continue on as I am right here up this southeast ridge.
So you have to make it to the top and back down within a certain window?
Correct. You have to make a certain time increments, before it's dark. And here I am, just climbing up above, the false summit, which is called the south summit of Everest. That's the black rock behind me. And at that point, I was kind of reflecting a little bit about the body of the former mountaineer and legend Rob Hall from the infamous 1996 Everest disaster, which was documented well in the book In the Thin Air, as well as the Jake Gyllenhaal movie Everest and other accounts. And his body is actually still laying there behind that black rock behind me. And so I really it kind of hit me a little bit when I went by him. And I start climbing here this knife edge ridge called the Cornice Traverse. And this is at about 28,750 feet or 8,763 meters. You can feel a lot of adrenaline during this process because you're on this knife edge ridge that's only about 18 inches wide. And it's also quite nerve wracking because you face sheer drops of thousands of feet to either side of you. The left side, again, is going to drop you back into Nepal, and the right side is going to drop you into China. But as I'm walking here, I also stop for a brief moment and I stare out at the beauty in front of me. And it brought really kind of a sense of peace and serenity before going any further, because I was just here by myself, and so it was really kind of a peaceful but yet very dangerous moment as well. So really strange dichotomy of a mix between beauty, awe, and a little bit of frightening feeling going across this course.
What is the temperature that you're dealing with up here?
Oh, it is very cold. It's hard to say. It's never above freezing, but it can go as low as 100 below zero, and it can be as warm as, let's say, 10 degrees. 10
Is that
degrees
Celsius or Fahrenheit?
10 degrees Fahrenheit. It would be about the warmest as it would get, and it would get as cold as 100 below, 120 below zero, depending on the wind and the time of year. So here I am. I am scaling the legendary Hillary Step here, and named for the famous Sir Edmund Hillary. And I'm all alone again here, so it's quite of a surreal experience. And you have to kind of remain focused at all times on those carabiners that are attached to my harness here, as well as this thing called the ascender that you can see that I'm clipping into the rope, which is connecting me to the rope and allowing me to go up the mountain in a pseudo-safe manner. Because if I fall and slip with that ascender and those carabiners connecting that rope, hopefully the anchor points of that rope will keep me connected to the rope and I don't fall to my death. So that's kind of the hope, and that's kind of the thing that you're focusing on at every step, because again, you're a little bit drunk here by your neural sensation, because you're super hypoxic here, so it's hard to think and focus, and so you have to really pay attention to the little things of just putting one foot after
Mm.
another methodically, and making sure that you're stepped and clipped into that rope there. The
How
other
are
thing
we
is
not seeing what's connecting the camera to you?
because the 360 camera kind of takes that out. The software kind of takes it out of the camera
Oh.
itself. It's
Huh.
designed that way.
Magic.
The other thing you can see is that over my right shoulder here is this cornice that drops off 12,000 feet into China, and so you got to remain quite focused here as well, because I'm using my right hand to push off this cornice to help me step on these rocks of the Hillary Step as I'm
Mm.
going up it. So I'm focusing on the rope and the ascender and the carabiners, but I'm also focusing on my right hand here, making sure that I'm grabbing it and not reaching a little too far to the right and causing me to fall over
Oh.
into that cornice. So yeah, it's a very methodical, arduous, slow race against time and energy. But ironically, this is also a moment where I was wondering about Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay. I was wondering what they
Mm.
felt on May 29th, 1953, when they were here all alone on their quest to become the first humans to reach the top of the world, because they had no one around them as well. And so, I was kind of wondering, what did they feel at that time, being here in a place that I've never been before, trying to climb this step or this part of the mountain that's so aptly named after Sir Edmund Hillary.
This is where the traffic jam happens, isn't it?
Sometimes it can,
Yeah.
because it's a difficult part of the mountain to climb, and if there's people
Narrow.
trying to go down during the same time as others are trying to go up, it can get congested, and in that case, it becomes a life or death issue of running out of
Oh
oxygen.
my God.
And
Right.
there
Yeah,
for
within
hours
the
at end
time frame.
sometimes. Yep, you're running out of oxygen, you're running out of energy. Everybody's on adrenaline, right? You have that adrenaline to get you to the top, but the question is, do you have enough energy once you do get to the top to make it back down safely? And actually, more people die during the descent than they do during the ascent, because
Wow.
they went through all their oxygen, they went through all their adrenaline, they burned all their energy trying to make it to the top, and they didn't have any left in their tank, or the mental focus, because they're so exhausted, to try to make it back down without falling or making a mistake. So yeah, these things are factors that you don't know until you go, and you hope that they work out in your favor. Otherwise, those are some things that you have to adjust for, and make serious decisions while you're there. Okay, here we are nearing the summit. We're actually on the
Oh
summit
my
slope here,
God.
which is the last stretch before getting to the summit of Everest. And my anticipation here really kind of rose because I could finally see the summit in front of me. I realized, there it is. Years and years of training and a lifelong
Oh my
dream
God.
is only hundreds of feet in front of me. So again, it's one of those things of staying focused, telling myself to keep going. You can do this. Don't give up. Keep going. And we're almost there. So that's kind of what was running through my head here as I was clipping and unclipping into the rope, the last several hundred meters before getting to the top of the world.
Oh.
Wow,
Sometimes I find it
Hillary.
hard to do my laundry. This is like so mind-boggling.
I'm amazed because Hillary and Norgay didn't have a rope.
They did not
Oof.
have a rope. And here we are. Here we are at the top of the world. We're on the summit of Mount
Yay.
Everest at
Woohoo!
Made it.
29,032 feet, or 8,849 meters above sea level. And I'm alone here, all by myself, with only one other person, and that is my brother from another mother father, as he calls me still today, Tashi Sherpa, the guy there in the blue. Him and I had the whole mountain to ourselves, and we climbed all the way to the summit by ourselves. We were on the summit by ourselves for about 45 minutes. So, we are standing by these colorful Buddhist prayer flags that I mentioned to you earlier that have mantras on it, that are designed to blow prayers into the wind to people all across the world, and they put them on the highest point on earth because the belief is to spread it as far as possible. From up here, you can see hundreds of miles into Nepal, China, and India, and it's definitely an honor that we felt that Goddess Mother of the World, or Chomolungma, gave us safe passage to allow us to step onto our vaulted summit. So that's one of the first things I did when I got up here. I prayed, I bowed, and I gave my respects to Chomolungma, because it allowed us to get up here. Even though I'm not a Buddhist per se, it was a thing of respect. You know, and the thing is, though, on the same token, you have to understand that we're on borrowed time. So, as much as we take in this beautiful scenery, and as serene as it was being here, we also knew that the clock was ticking, and that we all had to get back down with enough oxygen, enough energy, and good weather to get back to Camp 4 or South Call if we all wanted to survive. So even though this was a surreal moment and it was the most beautiful view I ever took in my life, I was also cognizant of the fact that we had to get back down safely, because
Tick
climbing to
tock,
the
tick
top,
tock.
yep,
What
is
is the statue at the top?
Yeah, the statue of the top, let's jump back out of the bubble, is actually the statue of the first ruler of Nepal, and his name is Prithvi Yaronan Shah. So someone brought that statue up there as a respect to the first ruler of the nation of Nepal. So yeah, very cool that someone actually brought it and put it up there. It was a
And
Nepalese
then
climbing.
is that an antenna next to it?
It is. It actually is. It's you know, what they try to do, the National Geographic team try to climb up there and set up a weather tower or weather antenna, but because of the weather conditions when they went up there, it was too hard for them, that they weren't able to make it to the summit. So what they did is they actually stuck it back on that balcony area that we see in the first clip of this bubble, and today that antenna is actually sitting there at the balcony, and so now they have 24/7 monitoring of the wind speed, of the snow, of the jet stream, and so on Mount Everest, because the jet stream actually climbs over the summit of Mount Everest. And most of the year it's flying over the summit of Mount Everest. Matter of fact, it's flying over it today as we speak. And the reason why we are able to make it to the top of Everest is really dependent on only two factors ultimately. Let's say our conditioning's doing well, we're able to acclimatize, our team is feeling strong, and we're able to deal with the sickness, the avalanche, all the other things that the mountain throws at us. The thing that is the determining factor on whether or not we're ultimately going to make it up to the summit of Everest is weather. And that is based off the monsoon season that is now happening right now in the middle of May, forming off the coast of India and the Bay of Bengal in Bangladesh, and it moves up into the Himalayas. And what it does is it is strong enough to push the jet stream, which we all know that flies over the United States and around the world. The jet stream that flies over the summit of Everest most of the year, it pushes it just far enough off the summit that it gives us a weather window to try to make it up there. So the key is to try to calculate that. You don't know, and every year it's different, and you don't know how many days that jet stream is going to move off the summit of Everest. So the idea is that you try to make these calculations and predictions based off global weather patterns, not localized weather on Mount Everest, but the jet stream and the high pressure systems and the monsoon in India. You're trying to make these calculations that, okay, at this amount of days out, we think that there will be a window where the wind speed will be low enough and that the weather will be good enough for us to try to make it up there. And so you time that. And so in our case, you know, it took us about a week from base camp to get to the summit and back down. And we had to time that 5-day climb towards the summit in advance. And we either got it right or we didn't. And we got our weather projections from a guy in Belgium, you know, so halfway around the world, nowhere near Nepal, because he's one of the best atmospheric scientists in the world. And so he was able to project, you know, with his best certainty that we think that this and this day, May 21st, is your day to try to get to the summit. And so May 21st is our summit day. But we originally had that set for May 18th. The original calculation was May 18th. But one of our Sherpas got sick and he had to get a helicopter evacuated back to Kathmandu. And so ultimately we didn't go back up after our climbing rotations for the 18th, which turned out to be a horrible day. So, you know, that was fortuitous that the 21st actually became our summit day, because it turned out to be a very good day. As you can see by the footage, it was a very good day and there was nobody else up there. You know, we had it all to ourselves essentially. So all these factors have to line up for it to work out. You know, and in our case, you know, I'm humbly honored to have made it up and down the mountain over the course of 52 days, you know, relatively unscathed, with 63 hours of VR and 2D footage to be able to share with you guys today.
Yay! Thank you.
Wow.
Bravo.
Wow. Yeah, that would be
Congratulations,
a bummer.
Alex.
The weather's
Absolutely
no good.
incredible. Yeah.
Mm.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
How
It's
long did
awesome
it
that
I
take
feel
to
Everest.
incredibly
recover?
moved by having this experience. It's
Really?
it just
Sacrifice.
blew me away. Wow. And
Dan, you're right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. It was extremely moving because, like I said, I'm not innately a Buddhist, but Tashi, who climbed with me, and he was the only person that was with me from the balcony all the way up to the summit. And he was also happened to be the first person that picked me up at the airport 63 days prior when I landed in Kathmandu. So there was no plan of Tashi and I going up there by ourselves to the summit. It just worked out that way. And it's just kind of the way the dynamics worked out. And he happened to have a camera that I gave him. And if he didn't have that camera, you wouldn't see a lot of this footage. So all of these
Way
things
to
had to
go,
fall
Tashi.
into line. Exactly. And so, but because of that, Tashi was a Buddhist monk prior to becoming a mountaineer. And so he's a very spiritual person. And during our 9-day trek to Everest Base Camp and our time on Everest on the mountain itself over the course of those other 43 days, I learned a lot about Tibetan Buddhism. And out of respect, when I got up there, first thing I did is I bowed and gave my respects to Choma Lungma, the goddess mother of the world, as the Sherpa call her. And, we have the sense of Mother Earth maybe being the sky or the weather, but no, for the Sherpa people, it is Mount Everest, and it is that literal. And that is why
Yeah.
we have to do that puja ceremony at base camp, asking for permission and safe passage to climb the mountain before we can step one foot on the mountain. And again, in my case, I bowed to the mountain, once we got up there. So it's definitely a very spiritual, moving moment. And no matter what your religious belief is or what your sense of spirituality is, there's no way that a 43-day climb or 52-day expedition on Mount Everest doesn't change
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unreal. That was incredible.
yes,
Alex, where do
absolutely.
you have your Buddha at home?
you. I have a couple of them actually. And
Yeah,
there's
where are
one
they?
that's sitting right next to me in my office, next to the rock. So if you
Hmm.
remember the footage there, as we're getting up to the summit slope, or even from the summit, you can look back down about 50 feet, and there's a black rock outcropping, which is the highest rock in the world. And I took a rock from there, a tiny little rock, and that is sitting in a box next to me and not far from my Buddha shrine and some Tibetan prayer flags. And those
You,
Tibetan prayer flags that you saw on the summit of Everest, as well as on that suspension bridge, the Hillary Bridge, and also places throughout the Khumbu Valley, they have 5 different colors on them. It's red for fire. It's green actually for water, because if you look down at the Dukosi River, that glacial
mm,
runoff is actually green. It's not blue. So for them, they
mhm,
envision water being green. The air itself is the white color, and the sky is the blue color, and the yellow is the earth. Because as you saw as we were trekking up, that earth is very yellow and barren looking as you got higher and higher. So those are the 5 elements according to Bon Buddhism. And on those different elements, elemental flags, you have those different prayers. And those prayers, again, are designed to be blown in the wind from the highest points to spread them to as many people as possible. So I have them here on the top of my second floor of my house, which is the highest point that I have in my house to sit them at.
do you
I
burn
missed
incense
what
too?
what
Right.
initiated this entire desire for you, like since you were a child or
Oh,
Yes.
at a
yeah.
point in
It's a
your
good
life, like,
question.
yeah.
Phenomenal question, and actually, we talk about it in the 2D documentaries. We have a documentary, Quest Nepal, that's 72 minutes long, and you can go watch that on Amazon, Apple TV, whatever. We also have a 97-minute documentary, which is the most recent 2D documentary, called The Quest Everest. And in both of those, we talk about it. What basically happened, as I mentioned earlier, I used to live in Omaha, Nebraska. I was born in Spain. I grew up in Germany. I lived my early part in Europe. I spent all my childhood summers in Europe. And so, living in Germany or visiting my family in Germany or spending my rest of my time in Omaha, Nebraska, away from any mountains, more closer to cows than we are to mountains. Mountaineering was never in my mindset. I played high level soccer instead. But one day after a lengthy soccer practice, I came back. I was sitting on my couch having some Doritos, drinking some Mountain Dew after a 3-hour soccer practice. And I was watching TV and I saw something on Mount Everest. And at that moment, I told myself, one day I will climb that mountain. But out of sight and out of mind, many years later, I'm living in Denver, Colorado. I already graduated from the University of Colorado. I was, I played college sports up at CU, but I never did any mountaineering, any real hiking. I wasn't drawn to the mountains at that point in time. And then one day I'm watching some random daytime television. I have no idea what it was, but for some stupid reason, that recollection of me being a 14-year-old boy sitting on my couch in Omaha, Nebraska, watching something about Mount Everest jump back to my head. And I told myself that one day I would climb that mountain. So I said to myself, well, heck, if I can't honor my commitments to myself, how can I guarantee my promises to anyone else? So the next day, I started this process of trying to make it to Mount Everest, and I had no idea how to go about it. But after 9 years of trying this and trying that, and then getting formally trained in mountaineering and wilderness survival and rock climbing, all the different things that you need in order to climb a mountain like Mount Everest, and going to Mount Rainier and climbing Denali in Alaska and Aconcagua, which is the highest mountain in South America, and so on, to test my body at altitude to see if I was even going to be capable of getting to such altitude. That long 9-year process was based on the fact that I had to keep a promise to myself. But then when I was sitting on the summit of Denali at about 11:30 at night under that perpetual Alaskan summer sun, all by myself with just my climbing teammate, is when this idea of the quest dawned on me. I said, you know what? I'm into this years and years of training, commitment, money, sacrifice, all this. And I realized I couldn't just do it for my 14-year-old teenage childhood promise. I had to do it for something bigger. And so therefore I said, okay, why don't I take my film experience, my international business experience, and so on, and let's turn this into some stories that people like you might have the opportunity to experience, because I knew that 99.9% of the people on this planet will never have the opportunity or the stupid desire to want to go climb Mount Everest. So why not turn this into a project, if I'm going to risk my life to honor my childhood promise and be able to share that with you people today.
Wow. Well, I personally am so grateful to you for doing so. Really, what an incredible experience just this was. And wow, yeah, it's really wonderful, and I thank you, and thank you, Athena and Doug, for making this possible. We can come back, right, just on our
You
own
could
and
come back to
explore.
this world whenever you want, and then at 6 o'clock tonight, we're gonna do this again. So we're gonna go back through. We're gonna go back through all the circles. So you're welcome to come back to the 6 o'clock. Bring friends. Let people know that he's going to be doing it again. And there might be another one in the future. This was sort of a test, as Doug said, to see how well this is going to work. It works. So we're definitely going to do it again. And actually, Alex, I have a question for you. Now that we've done this once, you climbed it. So you must have had like a visceral experience going through, but now you're seeing the video with a whole bunch of avatars standing around inside of it in this, crazy world that we've created in VR. What is that experience like for you?
Yeah, it's very surreal, because I'm really kind of, when I see you guys standing here as avatars, but then I hear your real voices as well. It's kind of that meshing. I get this real weird meshing effect of I am talking to a real person, but on the same token, I'm talking to an avatar. And on the same token, we're climbing Mount Everest together, and bringing back these flashbacks and memories of that experience in its own right, and able to share the real life people that you see in that footage with these avatars in this world that you guys created. So to me, it's so cool. It's such a really neat, special experience, because again, it's like if you stand at the rim of the Grand Canyon or some beautiful waterfall somewhere in the world, you take a picture of it and you look at it when you get back home, or you're sitting on the plane from the flight home, and you say, yeah, that was cool, but it really didn't look like that, because you don't get that perspective, that immersive perspective. And you can only get that in VR. So even the 2D documentaries, the Quest Nepal and the Quest Everest 2D documentaries, that if you guys have 72 minutes or 97 minutes of time to watch them, I'd be humbly honored if you took your time to do so. You don't get that sense of immersion of how steep Everest is, how challenging the actual climbing up that crevasse wall is, or walking across the ladder, or walking along the Hillary step, that exposure. So being able to do that with you guys here is very, very cool, because it really adds another level of immersion to the experience that I went through myself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and Doug, even more so, I want to thank you guys for taking your time in the day. I know, for some of you, it's the middle of the day. For some of you, if you're in Europe or whatever, it might be later in the day, but you have a lot of time at your disposal to do other things. And for you to come here and jump in with your avatars and spend time to go up Mount Everest with me is really an honor to me, because that's really what this is all about. I wanted to do this because this is something I could share with other people. And for the fact that you guys took that time to do so, really the honor is mine. So thank you guys so much. And thank you so much, Doug and Athena, for building this amazing experience around, the Quest Everest VR.
Thank you.
I have a question for you.
Great
Yes.
collaboration.
Did you bring back any snow with you from the top of the mountain?
I thought about that. I wanted to, but first and foremost, I wasn't going to pull out my ice axe and chisel it, because it's really just ice there. There wasn't really any snow laying around, because like I said before, it never really drops below 10 degrees. So to actually get snow, it would be difficult. So you're just kind of chipping away, like trying to get ice cream that's been sitting in your freezer for
But
too many
it's
days.
part of you, because you said that you melted the snow to drink the water. So
That
it's
is
part
true.
of your cells now. So you did bring it back in every
Mm.
You
cell.
are absolutely correct. And you know what? I did drink some of the water at Camp 4, which is melted snow from Camp 4. So I did have snow at, from snow that came from 26,000 feet or 8,000 meters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
But I do have this trusty rock, and I'm almost tempted, because there are a couple rocks in museums, in the British Museum and so on, from the summit of Everest. There's not many of them, but there's a couple of them. And some scientists at Cambridge, I think, actually split one of the rocks open, and they saw actual triliths in there. They actually saw an ammonite in there that's fossilized. And so the rock on the summit of Everest that you see in the footage is actually from the bottom of the ocean. And so those two tectonic plates that I was talking about earlier during the trek, it's the Indian plate slamming into the Eurasian plate that caused the Himalayan mountains. And actually, Mount Everest is still growing every year by about an inch. So it still gets taller and taller, but ultimately that was at the bottom of the sea. And so it's so ironic that rock, that you can split open that rock and have a chance, like a geode, to find a fossil in there of a dinosaur that's millions and millions of years old. And the Nepalese people,
seeing the constellations
yeah,
and the
all
snow and the people standing in a circle.
How
They don't
about
realize
a
they're
group
muted.
shot?
They're not
Group shot,
muted.
group shot.
Yeah, let's get over here.
Okay.
Should we all stand on the mountain?
Where should we stand?
Yeah, we can stand on top of the summit over the map. Let's go over there. Great. And Doug, this looks very similar to a little 3D printed mountain that I have sitting on my desk. This is pretty much the same look that we have here. So it's pretty cool.
Which way should we face?
Where are we facing?
Well, you got. Yeah,
Which
that's
one? The left
where
or
I
the
am. It's you guys are lit up on this side. I can see that.
You can see our faces.
know
Yeah.
what-
Oh yeah, there
Carlos,
it
are
is.
you taking the photo?
Absolutely, yeah. I'll drop
Okay.
it on Discord, but there's a lot
So
of pins
everyone
in here.
turn around and face CP
Yeah,
Austin.
over here.
Oh, so get on the other side of the pins.
Where is DP Austin? Oh,
You guys
I
move
see you
forward
guys.
a little bit so those pins aren't so prominent. The pins are really distracting. Yeah, come towards me. Yeah. All right. Alex, you get in the center there.
All right.
And yeah,
Wait, you
Karen,
went
move over a
all the
little
way
bit.
down.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Moves
You're good
around
right there.
quickly.
All right. Somebody is hiding back there. Athena, can you come towards the front, please? There you go.
Whoop,
All right.
don't go too far down.
All right. Everybody ready? Looking this way. And I see another person back there. What is his name? The guy with the, yeah, that one right there. Dino.
He
or
might not
something?
actually be present.
Oh, okay. He's moving around, so he's alive.
Oh.
No pun intended. All right, hang on. I'm still trying to get the shot. So the name tags are very, okay, there. Everybody stay still right there. 1, 2, bam. Let me take one more for safety. 1, 2, and snap. Namaste. Thank you.
Namaste.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, everyone,
Yeah,
take a little
thank you
break,
all.
and I will
Okay,
see you
yeah.
back here at 6 p.m. at Center Camp.
Okay.
That's
Awesome.
Pacific time.
Thank you
Pacific
so
time.
much.
Pacific
Yeah,
time.
Thank
Pacific
you.
time.
6 p.m. Pacific time.
Doug. Yeah. Bye,
Thank you so
everyone.
much,
Thanks,
guys.
Bye. Glad to
Jen.
share
Bye.
Thank
this
Thank
with
you.
you all.
Make a
Thank
little
you,
piece of that
everyone.
Thanks,
rock
Thank you,
and have
Alex.
like a
Alex.
necklace made out of
Thank
it.
you,
Thanks,
Carlos.
Athena,
Take care,
Doug.
everybody. Thanks, thanks, thanks. Bye, bye, bye.
Thank you so much, guys.
And Alex, you're on desktop, aren't you? You're not.
Yeah, I'm on desktop actually.
Yeah, so you need to borrow a headset so you can come in VR. Check it
Yeah,
out.
I have a couple of them. I just need to grab them, and probably what
Oh,
I'll do it
charge them
after.
up.
Yep,
Yeah.
I might not be able to do it for